A very good afternoon to everybody here. We are excited to invite you to an inspiring panel discussion on predictive learning, shaping the future of workforce development. In today's session, you're going to see how data-driven world organizations are leveraging predictive analytics and AI to forecast skill gaps, personalize learning experience, and enhance workforce capabilities. Predictive learning enables companies to anticipate training needs before gaps emerge, ensuring that employees stay ahead of industry trends and business demands. This discussion will explore how predictive learning is transforming corporate L&D, its challenges, and the best practices of implementing predictive models in training strategies. Your insights and expertise will be invaluable in driving the conversation forward. To hear more, let's welcome our esteemed speakers, our panel members. To start with, we have Mr. Shivraj, Operation, Automation and AI Lead Global Talent Transformation DXC Technology. Shivraj is a seasoned software professional with over 30 years of experience across multiple industries and has worked in sectors like as implementation industry, automation, software development, and education. Presently, he is an operation, automation, and AI lead with global talent transformation team at DXC Technology and focuses on leveraging automation and AI technologies to improve the efficiency, effectiveness, and scalability of different workflows and learning functions. He is a recipient of 2016 Top 20 Emerging Leaders Award from Training Magazine and has also authored and reviewed several books and articles, the most recent one being .NET Marving Projects, published by BP Publications. Welcome, Shivraj. Thank you for being one of the panelists for this evening.
Thank you for having me, Toral.
We have, moving on to the next, Indrapreet, L&D professional, a dynamic HR professional, excelling in people development with over a decade of multi-industry experience, specializes in facilitating training, developing mentorship programs, and enhancing employee engagement and training delivery. Skilled in implementing end-to-end L&D process and management with strong communication and project management competencies. Welcome, Indrapreet.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be a part of the great knowledge sharing session. Thank you.
Moving on to the next, we have Sarita with us, lead competency and capability Itachi Vantara, program management professional with 15 years of experience in competency and capability building in workforce transformation, employee relations, and organizational development. Experience in collaborating with leadership to conduct competency strategic planning to support organizational goal, ability to address and implement strategic plans for talent transformation and competency mapping. Welcome, Sarita.
Thank you, Toral.
Moving on to one of the most important person of this event, I would say, without which the session cannot move ahead, our moderator. Welcome, Ranjana. Ranjana is lead learning and organization development, Titan Company Limited. Ranjana is an expert in learning and organization development with over 28 years of experience across staff organizations like PwC, Wipro, and Reliance. Currently leading learning and OD at Titan. She has been an instrumental in driving transformational talent strategies. A Vivekanand National Award recipient, Ranjana has facilitated 22,000 plus hours of leadership and talent development sessions, impacting professionals across corporate and government sectors. She is a specialist in competency building, leadership development, coaching, and experiential learning. Very happy to have you too, Ranjana. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Toral, for such a wonderful introduction.
Without taking even a single minute further, I will pass on this baton to you, Ranjana. All yours. Let's hear what this expert had to say to us. All yours, Ranjana.
Okay. So, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's panel discussion on predictive learning. As you already know, my name is Ranjana Sen, and I am going to be the moderator for this session. Now, as we gather here today, we are surrounded by a world where data is increasingly driving decision making. Predictive learning, with its ability to forecast outcomes and identify patterns, is at the forefront of this revolution. Now, but in our mind, what does predictive learning really mean for business, organization, and individual? How can we harness its power to drive innovation, improve outcomes, and solve complex problems? Now, today, as we have assembled a diverse panel of experts who will share their insight, experience, and perspective on predictive learning, we will explore its application challenges and opportunities and discuss what future holds for this rapidly evolving field. So let's get started. And while I'm asking questions to our eminent panelists, uh, there will be number of polls and the questions will be asked to you. Please answer those. Your answers also enhances the session, right? So that's where we are. So let's begin. Let me ask the first question to Shivraj. So, Shivraj, how do you define predictive learning and what role does it play in modern L&D strategies?
Sure, Anjana, thank you. So to me, predictive learning is all about using historical learning data um, combined with technologies and tools like statistical modeling, machine learning, etc., to identify patterns in the data, which will help us get more insights, which will help in better decision making. Uh, so when you talk generally about data analytics, there are like 4 or 5 major types of analytics that you can do. One is, of course, the descriptive analytics, which is the most popular one, which basically tells you what happened in the past. For example, how many employees completed a training in the last quarter or maybe last financial year, or which courses were most in demand, etc. So this is something which we normally are used to getting it from our LMS records, and we can easily use commonly available tools to do that. So that is the first one, descriptive analytics. The second type is diagnostic analytics, which takes it a little further, where uh, it helps you understand why something happened or why it did not happen. For example, why a certain program did not go well or why it went well, etc. You can do that kind of analytics. The third one is predictive analytics, which is the topic of today's session, which predicts what is most likely to happen. It is like based on some probability. It is not certain, but it is most likely to happen. We'll discuss that in detail in today's discussion. And then there is prescriptive analytics, which recommends what actions you can take to achieve certain outcomes, right? And so these are the 4 basic types. And then now you have the 5th type in the mix, which is about cognitive analytics, where you use AI to infer those insights and take decisions. Now, if you look at predictive analytics, other industries like, for example, banking, they are already ahead of the curve because they use predictive models or forecasting techniques, for example, to identify loan defaulters based on their spending patterns or the credit history and so on, right? And this is the approach that can be adopted even in our industry to ensure that we have effective workforce training strategies. So in short, predictive learning helps learning teams to plan their learning strategies based on the historical data and make their programs more effective in workforce development. And basically, it helps to move from a reactive mode to a proactive mode when it comes to training, the workforce. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Shivraj. Uh, yeah, in training, that is one of the critical challenges that we face today, being always in a reactive mode. And that is what we all look forward to. How can we now move into a proactive mode? Now let's ask our next panelist, Indrapreet. How do you define supervised learning and unsupervised learning?
Okay, thanks for the question. So basically, it's already Shivraj sir already I think explained it very well in overall. So it's a very common type of difference in the common type of the predictive learning, but there's a very small difference. It's a data what we provide into supervised learning and unsupervised learning is the only difference. So how it is different? So in supervised, let's say we have planned a training for 100 employees. Based on the past training sessions, past training experience, we also predicted there will be a behavioral change, there will be a technical outcome from the training session. So then we planned a test of for all the employees and then analyze, is it the same outcome that we predicted or not, right? So we provide a label data here in supervised learning. So when we see in unsupervised, we don't provide outcome, we don't predict the outcome, we actually analyze it. So what this model does, this model will check the patterns and it check the hidden information, any similarity or anything you can find in the data, which is based on that data, it creates the cluster. I'll give you an example in this. Let's say we found a few articles on the web or in the social media. We saw some post, so we group them into the set of articles, right? We need to understand, is there any similarities in it? Is this actually linked to a one story only, right? So this is how we analyze it, we figure out it, and then we find out the exact outcome. So we don't know in advance, we don't predict in advance in here. So that's the only, I think, only a data difference in supervised and unsupervised learning. This is how it is. So that would be my answer.
Thank you, Indrapreet, for bringing in that perspective. With that, let me move to Sarita. Um, Sarita, my question to you would be, what are the biggest challenges an organization face when adopting predictive learning methodology?
Yeah, so thanks, Ranjana, for the question. So, in my opinion, as even we see in the day-to-day in the business also, that the major challenges would be on the data quality, right? So, when it comes to the AI-enabled learning, so we all know that LMS tools that we have, LXPs that we have, and there is a very thin difference between the recommendation and the predictive analytics, right? So right now we all know we are using day to day in our LXP platforms where recommendation happens to the individual. So based on their proficiency levels, based on their skill benchmarking, the system will throw a kind of a recommended learning paths and everything, right? So but there is a very thin difference between these two. So when we talk about predictive learning, so data quality is plays a major role. So having corpus data, feeding that into the model, it's it can happen. But when you have a quality data, then only you'll get a right amount of predictive prediction to the end user. So again, end user experience is also matters here. So the challenge would be the data quality. The second challenge which we always face in a model complexity. So when we talk about predictive learning, so balancing the model complexity with the correct interpretation, that's where we need to see what kind of a scalable algorithms will go into it, and what kind of the mathematic the scripts and everything will go into the model, how the model will get trained. So whether the model got trained by understanding the predictions based on the historic data or not, what kind of a future needs are already being feed in to the model. So all these things is kind of a complex, right? So the model complexity is very, very important. The challenge here we always face is the internal resources. When do you have domain expertise, you also need to have technology expertise who can access and then handle the scalable algorithms and also huge data volumes. So clustering the data sets is also again a huge challenge. So when you have all these kind of internal resources, then we'll get accurate and appropriate predictive analytics in the L&D phase. So storage, infrastructure, and the cost, all these things matter. So all these challenges we always face when it comes to predictive learning. See, LLM model feeding the corpus data and then getting the recommendation is we all have that already. So when it comes to predictive learning, predictive analytics, we need to have a lot of historic information and lot of pattern to be trained, how the entire system works, and then give the accurate results. So user experiences also matters. So if you don't have a model readily available and the scalable algorithms are available, a qualified data is available, then that's a huge challenge what we face.
So thank you, Sarita. Yeah, I mean, of course, data is the base for each and everything. And if that data is not correct and we are not feeding the right data, and with historic data, we were not prepared. None of us were prepared that what we are going into. Hence, the historic data may not be in the shape and form that will allow the models to work seamlessly. Yeah, definitely, that's a big challenge. Moving on. Um, let's talk about a few other things. Let's start with Inderpreet. What are the key data points that L&D team should analyze, since we were talking about data, to make the learning truly predictive and proactive?
So there are many points actually. So which I can talk about is how effective L&D program was. I mean, by assessing the complete gaps, or maybe you can see the exact needs to ensure the training program was relevant or effective, right? We do have a completion rates of courses and modules, how well learners engaged with the training materials. We have a learner's feedback. We can evaluate the cost of L&D programs. So in we do track the employee performance as well, because we track the each learner's performance and also measure the impact of that L&D program. Right. So, but I think I would like to highlight and focus on the point is what I feel is very important is it should be aligned with business goals of the organization. Where we analyze the impact of L&D programs on employee engagement and retention rates. We actually need to ensure that if we are taking some L&D initiatives, are these actually aligned with the business, right? So then we can use the data to make decisions for future learning strategies and training programs, how it is important, what we actually need in the organization, the content, right? So of course the budgets. So we do track budgets, and we do see the resources allocated, and we actually need to ensure that is it actually specific aligned with the priorities of the organization. So I think connecting to the business lines are very important. So that's what I feel in this the answer.
Inderpreet, thank you so much, and I completely agree with you. Even in traditional L&D, unless we meet the business priorities, nothing moves forward. And even in predictive, yes, I mean budgets, of course, but beyond budget also, how are we able to make the business impact? That's the most important thing. Thank you
Yep.
so much for
Yeah.
sharing that. Let's move on. Shivraj, this question is for you. How can predictive learning help in improving employee engagement and retention within organization?
Okay. So again, there are many advantages of adopting predictive learning, but when you speak specifically about employee engagement and retention, the top three things which come to my mind are: number one, proactive upskilling. So by using this data and predicting what skills will be required or what will be in demand, learning teams can offer training programs before there are skill gaps, which will help the employees stay up to date and be relevant for the job and meet the requirements, the business requirements which come up. So that is the first thing, that is proactive upskilling. The second area where I feel predictive learning can make a huge impact is in understanding the learning preferences of the learners. Like, for example, you can use the data to identify which types of training materials, like or formats, or the different experiences that you provide, right, and in learning. So which ones resonate more with the employees, so that the learning teams can ensure that the learning process is very both effective and also engaging. So that is the second area. that is personalized learning paths. And the third area is like, I mean, today you have a lot of data out there in the internet, which is very difficult to analyze manually. But using these tools, we can actually get an understanding of what is the industry trend, like uh, what kind of skills and competencies are required for future job requirements. So it is more like future skilling, so that I think companies like IBM and others have already adopted it in a big way. I came across an article while preparing for this particular panel discussion. I came across an article where DHL has implemented an AI-driven career marketplace, so that aligns existing employee skills with future job requirements, so that they are available for internal mobility and improved job fit. So that way you can ensure that the employee skills are aligned with the market or the industry standards and future job requirements. So these are the three areas: proactive upskilling, personalized learning paths, and real world industry match. So these are the three things that come to my mind as to how predictive analytics can improve employee engagement and retention. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shivraj. I mean, that makes it, I mean, so much focus that, and that's what every organization would like to do. How do we should know about, what are the upcoming skills and how do we, and that's the one challenge that each L&D professional feels. And we go back to the, the discussion we had in the beginning where we say that we are mostly reactive rather than being proactive. So this definitely helps in employee retention as well as engagement. Sarita, the next question is to you. What ethical considerations should organization keep in mind when using employee data for predictive learning?
Right. So for any organization, the certain limitations will be there when we use employee data within the organization also, based on the regions, right? So certain regions they do not even want to see in any kind of Excel formats or any kind of we share the data, they do not want to see the mobile number or date of birth. The certain restrictions are there within the organization itself, right? So when it comes to this kind of predictive learning and when we are trying to utilize the third party or another the tools what available in the market, so definitely there are limitations, and also we need to be very very careful when we are sharing the data to the outside world, right? So when first thing, if we want to use the market based tools, so data protection will be the major challenge. When we want to build in our own organization, then the cost is huge, so we always have these kind of limitations, right? So when we build this kind of model and we want to feed the employee data and do the predictive analysis, first and foremost we need to see the data privacy, so whether we have a privacy consent or not, so that kind of a NDA is agreement is in place or not. So the privacy consent well in advance we need to have with the tools team or whoever is the third party, to what extent we need to access the employee data, whether it is a skill level, whether it is a compensation, personal information of the individual, or proficiency level, or their learning metrics. So what extent we are going to use. So that's the first and foremost we need to see, and what level we can give. So that consent we should have first as a data privacy. And the second point is in the data minimization. So how much sensitive data that we have. So whether the data protection, the rules and the policies are in place or not. So whether when we feed the entire employee data in the model, so whether that is going out or not. So these are the certain challenges that we will have. We also need to ensure that data is protected, and the very minimized data, whatever the useful information, only that information is going into the tool. And also data security. So whether the security measures being taken care or not is first important again. So the security, because we can't give entire employee data to the other party, where they can use that employee data for any kind of unauthorized accesses, right? So that is very very important. So data privacy, data minimization, security, these are all at org level. We all know for our day-to-day work also we all follow this kind of thing. But when it comes to predictive learning, there's one more thing which I personally feel that the data transparency, right? So specifically in the predictive learning, the end user should understand how the entire predictive model is working, right? How the entire the final outcome is derived. So there are certain tools available in the market. I think you can Google it. There are few companies where when they give this predictive analytics tools to the end user, they also give a explain as a feature. So being an end user, if I have a certain information as an output, as a result, system has predicted something and it thrown some message that okay, you are at this level and this is the historic data, the future needs at the organization level, this is the kind of a skill level that you should be, and these are the learning recommendations, this is your proficiency level, this is your skill level. If that kind of output, if I am receiving it, so model should be in a position to explain what kind of a parameters that they followed when they are giving this prediction, right? So the employee level, the user experience and the transparency is very, very important, because when we are talking about the employee level, skill level or competency level frameworks, the end user should also have that kind of a belief in the system that, okay, the model is giving a transparent data. So if that is not there, the end user is not satisfied, then again, it's a challenge. That's where the questions will come. So these kind of ethical procedures we should follow when we are creating any model for predictive learning, data privacy, data minimization, use only this information till where we need, avoid sensitive data utilization, and data security and the transparency. And the model should be very, very accountable and responsible to give accurate and appropriate information. There shouldn't be any kind of hallucination through the model. So that's my opinion, Ranjana.
Thank you, Sarita. Yes, in any which case, data protection for employee data is a very, very, very sensitive topic, with or without predictive learning. But yes, thanks for bringing that out. Let me ask the next question to our panelist, Shivraj again. So, Shivraj, how do you balance automation in predictive learning while ensuring that the human element of employee development remains strong?
Sure. So I believe this question was targeted because I work on the operations front and I'm also responsible for automation. So I strongly believe that it is very important to balance the human element whenever we do any automation. So the principle should be we should use automation for improving the efficiency and not for replacement. So what I mean to say is, like I just mentioned about creating the proactive upskilling paths, right? So if we are going to adopt a strategy to use predictive learning to provide learning pathways to employees, uh, as we discussed, you can use your data, analyze and predict the skill gaps and recommend training programs for them, but this should not be completely automated. There has to be a human element, in the sense there has to be trainers or training managers who should be involved in interpreting the insights and then tailoring the development plan for the individuals rather than completely automating it, which may not be 100% correct all the time. So that is one thing, using automation for improving the efficiency and not to replace. The second is uh, the other point that I mentioned, like, you can use predictive learning to create personalized learning paths for employees, right? Depending on their preferences and past records. So when you create these learning paths, it is very important to ensure that the employees still have access to mentors or the trainers or maybe even their own peers, because human interaction adds an element of providing emotional support, um, or even the context and a deeper understanding of the topic, which any technology cannot replicate. So it is very important to have personalization, keeping the human interaction also in place. And the other idea is that we have to have very strong and proper feedback loops, because whenever you implement any system, especially automated systems, it is very easy to track the progress. but then it is very important to get regular feedback also from all the stakeholders involved, whether it's the employees themselves or whether it is the training teams or whether the employees managers, etc. It is very important to take frequent feedback so that you can adjust the learning paths and keep them keep them relevant. So this will create a kind of a collaborative development process. And the last thing is that the engagement factor, empathy and engagement. So if you look at learning pathways today, most of the MOOCs or even the self-learning courses, it is it is an open secret that the completion rates are very poor, right? Reason is because employees as human beings need motivation, they need emotional support, and they need that uh, opportunity of collaborative learning, which cannot be replicated purely by automation. So it is very important to consider this, that you need to provide channels or platforms where employees can share their experiences, their concerns, their challenges, etc., and they get support as well. So that creating that community is very important. So in short, my answer would be that to balance automation in predictive learning while ensuring the human element in employee development is very important. You need to ensure that there is a human element involved in the decision making process. That is the first. And second is, when learning paths are created, it is very important to have those channels for human interaction, either with their trainers or with the mentors, or maybe even with their own peers. The third is the feedback systems. We need to have a proper mechanism to take feedback from all those who are involved, so that we can keep those learning paths relevant. And finally, it is the empathy and engagement factor, where you have opportunities for employees to share their own progress, their achievements, their concerns, etc., which can be addressed. So my other panelists may have additional views to add here. This is what I had to share.
Would any of you like to add on to what Shivraj said? I mean, I personally feel that it is very, very important to have that human touch. Uh, People, it is people development. We are not, I mean, while we are using the power of AI to
Technology.
leverage learning, personalize it. But at the end of the day, that human touch, which you brought out so nicely, the emotion, the empathy, creating the community, and that is what helps in moving the learning forward. Uh, would you, with Sarita or Indrapreet, like to add before I move on to the next question?
Yeah, so
Yeah, I think rightly
I
mentioned by Sir. Yeah,
yeah, please,
yeah,
please
please
go
go
ahead.
ahead. Okay, no, no, just a very small point which I keep on studying on the AI ways these days. So I understand. So AI cannot understand the complex emotions. So whatever it takes, it can be fast paced. So there should be a human in touch, human interaction should be there. So I think complex emotion is the word which cannot understand by AI. So that was just my point.
Sarita, you were also
I
saying.
yeah, suddenly something went wrong. I don't know. It was on hold. Okay, I actually echo what Shivraj mentioned, right? So learning is not kind of mathematics. It's one to one, right? It's not binary. It's learning. Definitely, human oversight is very very important. Human touch is also very very important, because we whatever it is there in the portals, LMS platforms or academies, if all the documentations are available in the system, but when you have a mentor, or when you have a buddy who can help you in the day-to-day activities, right? So if I have a 10-page documentation, I read through, I know the process, I know the steps, how to deal with the system, but every day, definitely as an engineer, we'll see a new problem comes into the picture, right? So those kind of things will not be available in any kind of a training module or any document or anything. So definitely that's where we need a mentor and our support system who can guide us with their experiences. So how much automation we do, not only in L&D front, any other industry also, definitely human intervention is very, very important.
Thank you, Sarita and Indrapreet, for bringing that perspective in. Let's move on and let me ask next question to Indrapreet. What are the first steps an organization should take when implementing predictive learning in L&D programs?
Okay, so I'll again talk about the business here, and also Shivraj sir also added that we should have a stakeholders with us, for the any strategy we plan on L&D. So here I think I feel aligning L&D strategy with the business strategy is first step we should take. By identifying the key business goals of the organization. Designing those initiatives should be directly supporting these goals. So when you collaborate with business leaders, you talk about the culture, you talk about the overall team members, you talk about the senior managers, even below leads. There you can understand, on what parameters they want the teams to be trained. You talk with the senior managers, you assess the employee and the team capabilities and the core competencies. Then figure out what are the gaps here. And definitely we should define a clear objective uh, on what are the specific problems we are trying to resolve here, right? So, like, is there more skill gaps in the organization? Do we have a low engagement here? Things like that. So the question is, how will predictive learning contribute to overall business goals here? Improved customer satisfaction, maybe, or increase in revenue or great culture. So sort of that, when you talk about it, when you analyze this thing, and then you design the learning journeys, then you design the learning path of each employee and each learners. Of course, the LMS part, of course, there, whenever choose any right technology and the tools that are also equally important. When you choose LMS or any digital platform, which is very much analytics driven, or which has a capabilities analytics part in it, it will help you to track and analyze things, and the reporting part, it will help you in that. So I think we should explore some specialized platform with AI. It will help us for predictive to deploy the predictive models here. So again, my part, I think my role is in the business line, so I keep on connecting this thing with the business. So that would be my answer.
Okay. Thank you, Indrapreet. Yeah, whether, I mean, each one of us have to ensure that we are aligned with the business. Otherwise, nothing works. We are not operating in silo. We are operating because we want to ensure that business benefits from whatever initiatives that we plan. So yeah, I completely resonate with what you said. Moving on, my next
I think,
question would be,
sorry.
yeah,
Yeah,
sorry.
sorry. I was just adding something. So I think there are lots of approaches, and there's something came up in the digital ways. Yeah, there are lots of systems here. So what I feel is, I think face-to-face conversation with the stakeholders, involving them in the decision making and making decisions for the future learning, is very much impactful for the organization. That's all. Just, I think, a face-to-face conversation, the closely discussion with the senior managers and the stakeholders, that's really important. That's how you understand the overall organization and the culture. This is how you can plan it, right? It's not just something came up from the stakeholders, something came up from the CEOs, that this is the topic, you have to plan the training. That doesn't work. That's what I just wanted to add it.
Yeah, and absolutely, because your buy-in does not come unless your stakeholders are completely involved in all the initiatives that you're trying to drive. Uh, so, my next question to Sarita. Sarita, what role do L&D leaders play in driving predictive learning culture within an organization?
Right. So, not only the predictive learning, as Indrapreet mentioned, digital learning platforms. So, we need to inculcate that kind of a culture in the organization itself. But you see, it's there already. So, many of us already using it. But usually, what happens is many organizations first their inclination when implementing AI in any kind of any department, be it be L&D, HR, or business teams. So AI means they immediately they think that AI will automate everything. and it lighten the employees' workload. So that's the assumption that we have. So my opinion over here is we should understand AI is a kind of an optimizer here in the first place, right? So I just wanted to quote McKinsey. We all know, and it suggests that AI can automate up to 70% of many existing employees' jobs. Here, I assume that jobs is not employment, they are saying. So I assume, in my opinion, jobs is nothing but the tedious, mundane, and everyday manual tasks will get automate using this AI and automation tools. And let's start focusing more on a strategic analysis, right? Strategic initiatives at org level. So when we have digital platforms, when we have AI tools readily available, so AI can be a kind of an added additional advantage for all of us. Even when we talk about L&D side, so we came a long way, right? So we saw, I think, I am sure everybody are like more than 10 years of experience here. So we saw instructor-led trainings, classroom-based trainings, then virtual instructor-led trainings, then digital learning platforms like LMS, now LXPs, and now skill benchmarking, and now we have academies are in place. Now we are talking about autonomous learning as well. So we already moved from reactive mode to proactive, as Shivraj mentioned, right? So those were the days where we used to, like, project teams used to come and then they used to share, and these are the needs, and you just implement it. So now we are already gone those kind of traditional modes. So right now we are already anyways in the proactive approach. So we are sitting with the business leaders. We are understanding the business goals. We know what kind of a future pipeline projects are, what kind of a skill sets are needed. So we have that kind of a futuristic approach already have in the industry. So now this is the time where we start, utilizing AI as an additional tool and implement the L&D interventions in a proactive manner, in a accurate manner, right? So strategic workforce planning is one of the key thing I always think, because that's one of my favorite subject also in competency building. So by understanding the trends in the employee performance, their skill development, their career progression, future skill set understanding, and organization, what is the roadmap that organization has, and how we can align these individual skill metrics to the organizational goals. So that kind of a talent strategy with aligning with the business goals more effectively, definitely AI and predictive learning will help us, because instead of sitting and manually doing all skill assessments and skill proficiency tests, all that, so when it comes to AI tools, it gives a lot of, like, 50% of our manual tasks will, machine will do. And rest of the task, we as an L&D professionals, we can sit with the business teams and understand the strategy of the business and drive these strategic initiatives. Right. So that's my answer to the culture building, Ranjana. But at the end of the day, again, it's our, being an L&D professional, we need to inculcate that kind of a culture. We need to get the buy-in from the business teams, business units, and LT teams, that these AI tools will definitely give value addition. And with these kind of a strategic initiatives we can run. So that kind of a buy-in we as an L&D professionals need to get. At the end of the day, we also need to showcase the enhanced employee experience. So now we all know, right? Next gen, we have all college graduates joining in our companies. So the 5 days training programs, 10 hours training programs, it's all gone. So now, after completion of their, the regular training program, onboarding training, they all need everything in hand. So all academies should be placed in, and 5 minutes micro learning, bite-sized learning, all these kind of very, their learning time tenure also got down. But at the same time, not losing the content, having AI tools and digital learning platforms, we need to increase the we need to enhance the employee experience and adapt these kind of AI tools is kind of building the learning culture, what I feel, and then get buy-in from organization heads also.
Thanks, Sarita. Yeah, definitely. I mean, with the new generation coming in, the old way of learning may not be viable anymore. Because the attention span of the current generation is 30 seconds. That's the time of a reel, perhaps. Beyond that, they scroll and move forward. So I think that is again where AI does play or predictive learning plays a very important role. Moving on, let me ask Shivraj the next question. Shivraj, how do you measure the success and impact of predictive learning initiative in any organization?
Okay. So if you are talking about measuring the success and impact of predictive learning initiatives, it is more or less similar to any learning programs for that matter. So in the industry, we have standards like the Kirkpatrick model or the Kaufman model, etc. So we can actually use the same model here. And you have to use both qualitative and quantitative outcomes to ensure that the initiatives are achieving their goals. So if I take the example of a Kirkpatrick model, the first level is that of reaction, right? So you can actually look at the learning engagement. You can monitor the participant rates, course completion rates, etc. And higher engagement level suggests directly that the predictive training that the predictive learning pathways that you have provided is resonating with the employees and delivering value. So that is one way of doing it. The second way is to take feedback, like gather feedback from learners on their experiences with the predictive learning. And you can also have interviews or focus groups, etc. There are different ways in collecting the feedback. So that is the first level reaction, which is very easy. And the irony in case of the Kirkpatrick model is as you move up the levels, it is more difficult to get those inputs as well. So the level 2, which is basically on the learning effectiveness, it's to ways to capture that would be to conduct assessments or tests, conduct interviews, etc., or even have discussions and focus groups to validate if the target audience have acquired the desired knowledge, the skills, the attitudes, etc., which was the intended as part of that particular pathway. So that is the second level. The third level is related to behavior, whether the learners are able to perform their jobs. So once again, you will have to use different mechanisms like surveys or maybe observation. Depending on the industry, you can have work reviews and KPIs, etc., to assess whether the employees are, have got the necessary behaviors that are required for that particular skill. And finally, of course, the most important one is to look at the desired results when it comes to the business outcomes. So any training program or any initiative for that matter, it's the same thing, right? I mean, you need to have well-defined business metrics in place, whether it is in terms of productivity, in terms of billing, in terms of performance, customer satisfaction. There are various metrics that we can, derive in consultation with the business leaders. And I mean, you can actually measure improvements in all these areas and project completion rates, uh, or if it is for a different department, like for example, sales, etc., you can look at their sales metrics, sales performance, and so on. So that way you can ensure that the ROI, that you have invested on that particular learning initiative, it is recovered. So using a mix of these methods, I think we can, as learning teams, we can get a clear picture of how our predictive learning initiatives are performing and how they have actually contributed to the overall organization success. That's my take on it.
Okay. So thank you, Shivraj. So essentially, what you were saying is that while Kirkpatrick seems to be the age-old methodology of calculating ROI, even for predictive learning, we can use similar methodology in understanding the success of the program. Okay.
Yes.
So thank you. Moving on, the next question to you. What are some of the emerging trends in predictive learning that will shape the future of corporate training?
Okay, so I think the hybrid learning models, which is actually ongoing, and it's a very also a new model for future learning, what I feel, because the L&D programs that caters in both in-person and remote employees. There are benefits because that's very much flexible. So the latest example is this session. So anybody can join, and it can reach the broader audience. can be accessible to all, also continuous learning experience it has. So I think it's everywhere. Even in my organization, we do use hybrid training. Anybody wants to join the classroom, so we connect here, and rest of the employees log in from their home, and then they can attend remotely. So if we talk about a specific section or any session part of the training, so all instructors, all trainers knows what they have to do. They know how to break the employees in a small groups to resolve their problems, or maybe for any activity. It can happen in the remote also. um, Generally what happens, they also use the everyday items, so that remote employees will have in their home, so they feel like I can participate in this activity. That also helpful. So yeah, this is how it is. I think they do give the employee a time to practice even for the remote, so we know, and we actually need to engage them online and offline both. That's what the, I think, first the model. And the other, I think, virtual reality, realistic simulation. Of course, the first example is the aviation. So here, where the learners can practice in a safe and controlled environment. It actually very much deeper into this. So it allows learners to develop the practical skills or decision making on the basis of the live scenarios. uh, Obviously the aviation is there. We do have for healthcare it's helpful for this surgeries, for the medical procedures, and in the manufacturing it's useful. For business, there are role plays, customer interaction or negotiating context. So there are, everything is created so that there will be a very less of the risk at the time of the job role. Even for the disaster, I would like to add this. So practicing the emergency procedures in the disaster scenario is very much helpful. That's my answer. I think the VR, uh, also the hybrid learning modes. These are actually what I feel is emerging trends these days.
Okay. The sim-based training and the VR, which actually prepares people uh, for the real world, is what you say think is the future is moving towards. And I'm sure some of us are already using such tools. Uh, okay. So let's ask Sarita the next question. Sarita, how can predictive learning be scaled across global organization with diverse workforce?
Yeah, so let me not talk about the digital platforms and the VRs, and we already got good amount of information from Indrapreet and Shivraj. So what I feel personally, behavioral side, is that when kind of an organization culture emphasizes on innovation, then it's very easy to get buy-in and implement various tools and scale it up. So for first and foremost, the culture to include innovation in the department, right? So, and then the very, very important thing when we want to scale it up, right? So, data availability, internal resources are the very crucial thing over here. So, when it comes to LLM models, usually when you see the tools what available in the market, that if you have a corpus data available, then it's very easy to pick the data from there, and the LLM model will get trained, and then you'll get the recommendations, right? So that's very easy. But when it comes to predictive learning and predictive analysis, we need to depend on a lot of historic data and current capabilities and different patterns, and then performance monitoring, and then alignment with the future needs. So this data and this kind of information, accurate information, that being an L&D business team, if we have that, it's very easy to scale it up. So revision on periodic basis, for continuous improvement, data availability and internal resources, the expertise in technology, domain expertise, having the historic data. If it is a newly setting up any new startup company, not having any historic data, so what kind of data you'll feed in? So if you have that kind of information available, to scaling up is very easy, because once you have this kind of data available, and when you have expertise available internally, then scale it up to the next level, and doing the periodic basis revision it will go to the next level. So if you don't have all these things, then it's very difficult to scale it up.
Thank you so much, Sarita, for sharing that. While all our panelists, I have been the one who's been asking a lot of questions. Now I would like request the participants who are listening so patiently. I'm sure all of you may be having a lot of questions in your mind, and we have the eminent panelists here who can answer your specific question. So, over to you. If you have any question, you can type it in the chat window and our panelists can take those. Uh, I'm sure each one of you, while listening to this, could have a lot of questions while you were thinking of implementing in your respective organizations. You know, okay. So here we have a question from Nadia Tahir. Nadia wanted to know more about the model Shivraj you were speaking about.
Okay, thanks. That's a very interesting question, Nadia. See, this is a very dynamic landscape, given that we are having a lot of developments which are, coming up almost every day. So until generative AI was introduced, we had very traditional statistical modeling techniques like regression, which could be either linear regression or logistic regression. I mean, I do not know if you have that background, but I'm just giving you some of those terms from the statistical modeling field. So we had, approaches or techniques like regression, clustering, classification, and so on, with which you can actually analyze the data and interpret whatever you want. I mean, like if a certain course has done in a certain way in the past, you can actually make some, prediction about how it is going to perform in the future by making some changes to some of those independent variables. So that there are like dependent and independent variables that you can actually play with, and then you can actually extrapolate and make some reasonably accurate predictions. But ever since generative AI has come into the picture, and with the advancements of the models, I mean, now you all know that, OpenAI, for example, has the reasoning model, right? Which actually, if you enable that, you would be like, uh, I mean, I was simply surprised and shocked when I saw how the model was actually giving the response. Earlier, it was like you give a prompt and you had to just wait for some random output to come and you just have to hope for the best. But now it actually explains step by step how it is actually giving you that response, right? So with that kind of advancements which are happening in the model space, now the possibilities are infinite. So you can actually use a mix of both, instead of feeding the entire data to the LLM, which is not really advisable because it is basically a large language model. It is not trained to do statistical calculations, right? It is not inherently trained, like that. But yeah, recent models have actually become very powerful that it can even do that without, with very less errors. But if you use the mix of the conventional approaches along with the modern tools which are available, like generative AI, whichever tool you use, which is approved for use in your organization, you can actually make very reasonably correct decisions, um, or predictions with that data. And I will like to highlight the point which Sarita rightly mentioned, that ultimately everything is going to be dependent on the data that you feed to train the model. If that data is not accurate, then whatever you're going to get, the output is not going to be reliable and it is not going to give you the desired outcome. So you have to be very careful about the data that you use to train the model, and also ensure that there is no bias. So these are some of the challenges which we face in the industry today, right? The algorithmic bias that we have, and this is very important, especially when it comes to making important decisions about hiring or maybe about promotions, etc. It's very, very important. So you need to ensure that there is no bias in your model, your data is clean, and then you can use a mix of these techniques depending on the problem statement. You may have to adopt, as I said, there are like multiple algorithms and models which are available. You can go either for simple regression techniques or maybe classification, clustering, and then decision trees are there. And then you can use those data to validate once again with the generative AI and ask it to also share the insights. So that is the strategy that I adopt. Which there may be better ways of doing it, but this is purely exploratory at the moment. I hope I have answered your question, Nadia.
Okay, so I think Nadia says thank you, and she has one more question.
Yeah.
So could you please provide the name of the traditional model you had mentioned with levels?
The traditional model for machine learning, which I mentioned, right?
Yes.
Yes. So as I said, there are multiple techniques of doing it, and there are like various models. When I say model, you actually are referring to the generative AI, but for the machine learning space, we generally refer to the machine learning libraries. So you can consider libraries like scikit-learn, which is the most popular and easier to use. In case you are new to this field, I would suggest that you leverage scikit-learn, which is reasonably good and easy to use as well, easy to learn and implement as well. Of course, there are many other libraries available. I mean, it's a very vast area. I don't want to get into that discussion now, but that is what I would recommend, to start with scikit-learn. sklearn, you can Google for sklearn. I hope I've answered your question, Nadia.
Yeah, she says thank you to
Thank you.
Any other questions from those who are listening to this discussion? So in case none of you have, let me again ask some question. Any of you, in the Preet, Shivraj or Sarita, you can take this question. Say, how is predictive learning transforming corporate training compared to traditional learning approach? Do you feel there is any transformation that is happening?
So yes, there is a transformation, Ranjana, definitely, because not only the predictive learning, the LLM models what we use in the current LMS and LXPs also. So if you see, the traditional approach was like, right? So we used to conduct the training programs, then we used to conduct the assessments and then exams and the scores and all. But right now we moved all that, right? So now we have a system in place where individuals they themselves can assess their skills, right? They can put their skill level data, or what is the kind of an experience that they have, on what subject that experience that they have, and what the number of years of experience that they have, and what level of knowledge that they have in particular skill. So if they feed that information also, the based on the number of experience level, system will tell the individual that what is the exact level of your skill should be. So that kind of a mechanism already in place. So the system will recommend a person, you should be at this level, but right now this is your skill level. There is a small gap. So to fill that small gap, these are the recommendations that you have, which you need to undergo, and you need to have this kind of a skill set to be built by so and so timelines. You finish that, come back, take a test. So we have that kind of a models already available in the market. We most of the companies are using also. So there is a huge transformation, right? So earlier we used to sit and do all the stuff, and now the system itself is giving this option. And I think recent past I had one of the meeting a couple of months ago with Toral. So I really liked that one of the prometric set of exam assessment center, what the bot that they have built in, the tool that they have built in. So it's really good. So not only the person, whether they are giving, so we, when a person give a kind of an assessment in the system, so they can refer a number of documentations, right? So they can do anything and then they can complete the assessment. The tools being developed, I saw one of the demo from EduRamp that the cheat sheet also is giving directly. So as soon as a person completes the assessment, the system will give a kind of a reference that how many times a person went here and there, and what is the whether they have stopped accessing the system or not. That kind of a mechanism is already is there. So it's a huge transformation. So it's just that how we will use it, where we will use it, but otherwise it's already transformed like anything from the traditional mode of learning to the digital world.
Thank you so much. Yes, that, and we always used to worry, right? People when doing online, whether they will be honest enough and we will get the right kind of assessment done. But the tools that you mentioned definitely helps, to understand that who have been honest. Torel, would you like to add something to this?
I think that's what the procuring methods are amazing. Like we never thought AI will go to that level that it can give us clarity, and we do not have to worry about it. So yeah, there are different methods, different tools, um, and even different products which supports you, which helps you to do this. So very true, very true. AI is actually taking up things in a very different way and a very different level, I would say.
Okay. I'm just again, since I don't have any more questions from the participants, let me then ask, just any one of you can answer. So how can an organization leverage AI and data analytics to predict skill gap and personalized learning experiences?
So I'll take that question. So in fact, that is one area which I am currently exploring. So I do not have any results to share as such about its whether it was really a success or not. But yes, we are trying to look at all the data points that we can capture from the learning management system, which previously were used primarily for the descriptive analytics, right? So now with these advanced features and tools that we have, uh, we're trying to make sense of the data. Like for example, uh, instead of just looking at the course completion rate, we are trying to get into one more level of detail, like which month that course was adopted more, etc. The time series data. So to find out whether there is any pattern here where the employees, for example, as December is a lean period where most of them have some spare time to actually work on upskilling. So it is once we understand this pattern, we can actually tailor make some of the programs focusing that particular time when learning activity is either very low or when there is more interest from the employees. We can actually try to leverage that pattern to introduce learning programs. So we in our organization we used to organize initiatives like the certification month. So one particular month where we gamify this entire certification program. Every day there is a lucky winner which is selected, and we choose that time of the year where the response will be really good, so that we can maximize the outcomes. So like that, there are many things that we can actually look into the data, and I mean based on the data quality, and that is very important. As Sarisa rightly mentioned, it is very important to have the look into the right data, analyze it, and see how you can actually make sense of the data and fit it into your learning strategy. So that's my take. I mean, other panelists can add.
Sarita or Indrapreet, would you like to add something to this?
I agree what Shivraj mentioned, Ranjana. I think rightly provided the information.
I think we still have little time. I can ask one more question, perhaps. What key performance indicators should L&D teams track to assess the predictive learning's effectiveness?
I'd like to piggyback on my earlier response on a similar question.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so the same thing, the Kirkpatrick model, right? So you can have, for example, for employee feedback, right? So the course feedback, the basically learning engagement metrics in terms of the completion rates, the feedback, whether the desired outcomes were met for the employees. So that is one, the reaction part of it. And then you can go up the levels, and then you can look at the business metrics as well, like what was expected from the business side on how their performance will improve, their completion, their productivity rates, etc. So this will have to be designed closely in consultation with the business leaders so that it is relevant. Otherwise, whatever we design might not be relevant to the business as well, right? So these are all different data points that we can actually define collaboratively with all the stakeholders involved, and then define those KPIs. So that is my take.
Okay. So I think that's we discussed this point, and I think Nadia wanted to ask, can you please repeat the name of the model you just mentioned? Not sure whether I think she's talking about the Kirkpatrick model. Nadia,
I will
could you?
just,
Yeah,
yeah,
she said
it's
yes. Yeah,
Kirkpatrick. I will put it in the chat.
Kirkpatrick. Yeah.
I've shared it in the chat, Nadia.
Okay. So I think I personally feel very fulfilled, after having such an interesting discussion with inputs from so many, such eminent panelists. It I mean, like each one of us, so this is a new area. Each one of us definitely have our own challenges, if our own reservations, our own biases against anything like a predictive learning. But this has kind of helped me personally, and I'm sure to all our participants also, in having a perspective from so many speakers who have been using this. So over to you, Toral.
Absolutely, a very interesting session and this is a session, and I would say, right, Ranjana, I second you that everybody is exploring, everybody is trying what can work for us, what is better, and do we have something more better outside, some best practices if you can share. So yes, if we exchange our experience, share our experiences, and even try to see what others have done and implement that, it helps a lot. So thanks. As we conclude this session, today's session, I want to thank you all the speakers and the moderator and all of you who are attending this session, the viewers. Thank you for all your insight and engagement. We have explored how predictive learning is transforming workforce and development, driving smarter data-driven solutions. The future of learning is like proactive, adaptive, and dynamic, shaped by innovations and collaborations. I would say that. Let's take these insights forward, apply them in our organization, and continue shaping a future-ready workforce. Thank you for being part of this journey. Until next time, let's keep learning, evolving, and making an impact. Stay inspired and stay connected. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
Thanks,
so
Total.
much.
Thanks,